This is probably the single most convenient and family-friendly dish you could ever hope for. When making pizza, most of the labor goes into the dough. Split pita bread is inexpensive and works surprisingly well. Sure, it isn't as good as making your own, as I showed in the pizza dough video, but if you want to cut a giant corner and turn out a bunch of pizzas fast, this is how to do it. As long as you have my pizza sauce in the fridge, you can make amazingly good pizza in just a few minutes like this.
The ingredients for this abomination unto Italy are pretty simple. We've got pita bread that I've sliced across in half, my pizza sauce, which is already a previous recipe. I'm using custom scoy as one of the cheeses, which is similar to Monterey Jack, some some chopped onion, Parmesan cheese, Parmigiano Reggiano freshly grated, and a lot of it. This is important. Don't scrimp on the Parmesan. And also mozzarella at the back, and don't use too much mozzarella. Other mistake people make is they overdo the mozzarella. Now we take some oil and we brush onto the back sides of the pita bread like this. So we're going to have, this side's going to be down, this side's going to be up. Now onto metal baking sheet they go, with the oil on the other side, of course, oil side down. How much sauce you put on is up to you. If you want it quite flavorful with a lot of tomato flavor, put a lot. You know, if you're going mostly for that cheese flavor, put less. Yeah, it's up to you, of course. Okay, now the step that most people never understand. You put some onions in this layer underneath the cheese. This is a huge improvement to most people's homemade pizza. Yeah, I know it's not a tradition either. Just try it. Just try it and you'll see. Next, put Monterey Jack or some other similar cheese in here, but not very much. You just want a little bit. Something kind of to melt together with that onion. This. Then a little bit of mozzarella. Again, not too much. Don't overdo it. You don't want it to be a big gloopy mess on top, which is what will happen if you put too much mozzarella. A little bit's good, but don't go nuts. Okay. Now we put most of the Parmesan on. Not quite all of it, but most of it. Let's spread it out here a little bit. This is going to be a very cheesy pizza. Okay. Now, I'm using very fine, outstanding salami from Italy, made with pork that was fed, pigs were fed with acorns. So it's like the best salami you can get. You can't even buy it in the United States. It's not for sale. It's not allowed to be imported. Why? Probably because nobody would buy the American stuff if they knew what this tasted like. I don't know. It's just a theory. Okay. And now finally, the rest of the Parmesan, just a little bit more over the top. And it's ready for the oven. Now the next secret is that the moment these come out of the hot oven, while they're still hot and bubbling, dust them with a little bit of dried oregano. That melted cheese and moisture coming off of there will rehydrate the oregano.
If you want to understand, really understand, what goes on in the chemistry of cooking, Volume 3 is what you've been waiting for. Sure, I've included detailed printed recipes for everything on YouTube during the last few months, as well as quite a few additional recipes, but there are several other important features here. First, it's a direct continuation of some of the topics from Volume 2, with more details and answers to questions I've received from viewers, answers that I couldn't provide in the comments section because they require diagrams and charts to explain. Second, this is the only book of its kind to provide a fundamental and scientifically accurate introduction to organoleptic chemistry. That's the molecular science of flavors and how they're developed in cooking with different methods of time, temperature, the combination of ingredients, the pH, and other factors that influence the outcome. There's an extensive explanation of the browning of foods, and I don't just mean the Maillard reaction. Everyone knows about that by now. This is another whole level of understanding. But more important of all, this book introduces a novel method of making the sort of addictive flavor additives used by commercial food manufacturers, only using natural foods instead of bottles of chemicals. All you need is basic kitchen equipment and a digital thermometer to enter into this whole new world of cooking you've never seen before. I'm very pleased to announce the release of Volume 3, The Focus on Food Chemistry. I want to clear up a few things about these 3 volumes. First, they all contain completely different information. There's no duplication, they're not revisions. When I wrote Volume 1, I had 2.5 years of YouTube videos to cover. People had been asking me for the printed list of ingredients for all of those dishes, and so I obliged. There are recipes with stepwise directions and many tips offered throughout, as well as an extensive history of Russian cuisine over the last 1,000 years, but Volume 1 is very different from Volume 2 and 3. In Volumes 2 and 3, I only had about 9 months of YouTube recipes to cover in each, so I was able to provide stepwise directions for everything. In Volume 2, I included a lot of additional information about cooking and some simple examples of flavor chemistry to set the stage for Volume 3. While Volume 2 hopefully got you thinking about some of the processes that go on in cooking and how flavors are expressed and sensed at the molecular level, the topic was painted with pretty broad strokes to make it easy to digest. Pun intended. Volume 3 is a milestone of the series, in which I have included an entire introductory course in food chemistry, which is why Volume 3 is about 70 pages longer than Volume 2. And if you just want the recipes, that's okay too. You don't have to read the first few chapters, but if you've ever been curious about what influences tastes and flavors and the rationale for deciding cooking times and temperatures and why things taste different when they're combined in different ways, this book will answer many of those questions. It also paves the way for Volume 4, which will be next year. If you want to know more about my adventures as a chef around the world and have some great laughs along the way, be sure to check out the video tour of my book, 40 Years in One Night. It's up on YouTube right now. Click the link. Also look for my cocktail book, Cocktails of the South Pacific and Beyond, Advanced Mixology, available through Amazon online.